What's going on, you guys? It is Fatal, and it is time at last to take a look at Star Wars Battlefront 2, the game that I've covered all year long, waiting for its big, glamorous release, following its every news article, its every rumor, playing through the beta on both the PlayStation and the Xbox, waiting for the big day. Well, it came, and it arrived with a resounding thud, as the entire world decided that it was the bane of gaming and should be hated, and anyone who plays it should also be hated. Well, I want to start by saying that the game looks absolutely jaw-droppingly gorgeous, and the sound is still second to none. This is the most authentic looking and sounding Star Wars game you can play, just like the previous one was. But the previous one, as we well know, if you've followed my channel for the past 2 years, you know that I despised so many things about the previous one, and it only got worse as time went on. The horrible fighter squadron mode alone was reason to really dislike what they were doing with the game. So at the time of this review, Battlefront 2 has been around for about a month, and has its first big piece of DLC in the form of the Last Jedi expansion with the crate map, the Starfighter Assault map, and of course Finn and Phasma. When you advertise Battlefront 2 with a picture of Darth Maul and Rey right on the cover, you expect some real service to the prequels and the sequels. There are a fair few number of sequel maps and quite a few prequel maps, but the dominant force is still the original trilogy as it was in the previous game, as it was exclusively in the previous game. But in terms of heroes, no such equality exists. Your new prequel heroes are Yoda and Darth Maul, and that's it. That is unacceptable. For a game boasting that it now includes characters and maps from the prequels, you can't just have two new characters. The first slap in the face that Battlefront 2 gives its fans is it presents you with mostly characters from the previous game. Lando's back, Leia, Luke, Vader, Chewbacca, Boba Fett, the Emperor, Han, even Bossk makes a return. So I have a theory that to create longevity, the plan is to focus mainly on adding prequel and sequel content, because for the sequels, there is only Kylo Ren and Rey, until the DLC pack, which obviously added Finn and Phasma, making for 4. With hero ships, however, there is a bit more of a balance between what's new and what's old. It's clear that the model for this game is the future and the characters they can add, and every time they add a new character they generate that same hype that makes everyone charged for their Xbox or their PlayStation or even their PC just to boot it up again and play with these new characters and these new maps. Speaking of heroes, it pains me to say it, but another negative that comes straight off the bus is in fact the Heroes vs. Villains mode, where I have found that certain characters such as Boba Fett and Vader have an almost undeniable advantage. Boba Fett's ability to dodge lightsabers, land in areas that physically cannot be reached by other heroes so that he can just sit there and shoot down, and also his amazing ability to quickly wipe out heroes with his anti-hero rockets, one of his star card powers, which apparently has been nerfed, but I haven't seen that in action yet, is unbelievable. And Vader's ability to have more health as an upgradable star card is criminal. You watch him go head to head with other heroes and he takes them down nearly every time. It just isn't right that you should have 2 people to take out Vader in a game based around such apparently well-balanced gameplay mechanics for the heroes. I think it needs looking into, and I hope DICE are going to make good on their word of constantly updating the game. And unfortunately that brings us to star cards. Yes, this is our progression system now, to open up booster boxes that give us star cards that we can then upgrade with in-game currency to try and get an edge in battle. While I won't be as crass as to say that it completely and utterly decimates everyone online, because you will still kill people who have better star cards than you just will. It's not an incredible advantage, but cards like the now infamous legendary level upgraded thermal detonator can kill you from ridiculous range and angles and can leave you pounding the ground in frustration. But it's not the star cards themselves that bother me, it's the implementation of how you progress, and how it requires so much money. At the time of this review, to unlock all the heroes and hero ships that have been pointlessly put behind a lockbox so that you have to pay credits to them, which EA claimed was to provide you a sense of accomplishment as you earned more hero characters, which is a really crap way of just simply saying, oh, we want you to play the game longer, so we're going to make it so that you have to grind out hero characters. And it currently costs 70,000 credits to unlock all these characters, not including the credits credits that you're going to need to save up and put towards unlocking your hero character's abilities and your soldier abilities, which are also going to be in loot boxes. Now, some challenges you complete will give you loot boxes, and obviously you get a free loot box every day you log in, but those are very limited to common ability star cards, as well as a tiny bit of currency and crafting parts. And it's safe to say that if EA thought everyone was going to get really excited about the contents of the daily crate, they overstepped it a lot. And of course that brings us to the most controversial point of the game, the fact that EA and DICE pulled microtransactions out of this, preventing players from being able to spend real money on loot boxes and ultimately earning an advantage just through paying with real cash. Now, while I do have my disagreements about how effective star cards are in the battlefield, given how few of them I've upgraded, I've spent no credits at any point. I have all the credits that I've ever earned. I haven't unlocked any heroes because I'm against the idea, and I haven't unlocked any star card boxes because I'm against the idea. I'm just saving up credits at the moment and going head to head with everyone online with no upgrades whatsoever. And believe it or not, I'm actually doing okay. Now, they are gone, possibly permanently, but the fact EA wanted that for their model tells me that gaming is on a collision course with microtransactions being a definite way for gaming to break and become something that people just aren't interested in anymore, possibly starting even the death of the third-party game and leading to all kinds of free games that you pay microtransactions to, the end of AAA games, etc, etc. But that's a debate for another video. For this, I have to talk about why this is such a bad thing for Battlefront 2, because you have everything you could possibly want, the glitz, the glamour, the sounds, and you've tainted the product by having these terrible practices at launch and this horrible model for how you wanted people to progress, and your excuses for why you put this model in play are just insulting. And my friends, I'm happy to report that that is the end of the bad news. So let's get into the good stuff. Well, gameplay is tightened up considerably from the previous game. Shot times are more responsive, the HUD is less intrusive, and there's a lot less yellow bubble buttons all over your screen. The game treats people with good reflexes reasonably well, instead of just pandering to people who want to turn their sensitivity up to wamba. And very few guns seem to have any kind of overpoweredness that I've experienced, except for one sniper rifle for the specialist, which seems to be a one-hit kill. No matter where it hits me, it kills me instantly, and I think DICE will need to look in on that. But that's something that they probably will, because I can't be the only one getting killed by it. The map selection, as I hinted at earlier, is much more broad and much more imaginative. We've got prequel-era maps, we've got sequel-era maps. We're really going for broke in terms of the locations. It's a much more diverse collection of areas to explore, even though there are some serious omissions based on how popular they were in previous Battlefront games. The game has shrunk down from an unnecessary 10 modes to a much more polished and confined 5 modes. And while the Heroes vs. Villains mode, as I've said before, isn't great at the moment because of certain heroes being exploited, I do feel like Galactic Assault is absolutely every bit the epic Star Wars Battlefront mode that we all wanted. And I'm also happy to report that Starfighter Assault is finally the Star Wars space battle simulation that we all wanted. We definitely didn't get this in Battlefront 1. Even when they added the Death Star DLC. This is tight controls, fast, responsive, cleverly thought out tracking mechanics, wonderful aerodynamics through space to help you dodge torpedoes, great maneuverability. It's just an all-round delight. It's full of objectives, full of enemies. Adding AI ships was a stroke of genius, so there's constantly things to be shooting at. You're constantly contributing, and of course, when you do accumulate enough points and you can come in Poe's X-Wing, or Luke's X-Wing, or hell, even Rey's Millennium Falcon or Han's Millennium Falcon, or even Yoda's amazing Jedi Starfighter, you can have these experiences with very little effort if you play the objective, and that is what is most important to me. I don't have to be the guy with the most kills, I have to be the most effective player, and I often am, which is why I feel like this mode really panders to someone who wants to work for the team. Strike is a fun, if not little bit repetitive mode where you have 2 teams of 8 and you go in for an objective-based game. And while I do think some of the maps that you get for this mode are a little poorly thought out in the sense that one team will definitely struggle against any team that has any notion of fortifying or holding a location, I do think some of them are open, pressing, and really exciting, especially when the engagement starts. in, say, a bottleneck. And finally, Blast makes a return. Your standard team deathmatch, 10v10, you can't go wrong, nice and exciting, no heroes, blasters only, you'll have a good time with this one. So I'm happy to say, with the exclusion of heroes versus villains, even though I do think you can still have some fun with it, I do think this is a more condensed number of game modes, but a more effective one at the same time. Yeah, you can now engage the AI in more versatile and customizable arenas, but it's still quite limited, and it's apparent that DICE want you playing on their servers. They want you playing competitive multiplayer. Does this mean that playing on your own is not fun? Absolutely not. The custom arcade may be a bit limited, but battle scenarios give you quick little fun made-up battles involving hero characters and objectives that add some pressure with harder difficulties that you can unlock as you complete them. And they do award you with credits, to a point, only 1,500 per day. That may sound like quite a few just for playing against AI, but you have to remember it's 4,000 credits for the most useful loot crate. Finally, we come to the campaign. Now, if you've been following my channel, you know I've played the entire thing as a Let's Play on the channel. I had a blast. This is an excellent derivative story from the Star Wars universe that doesn't play too well with people who want something out of the ordinary. This is a standard story in the Star Wars vein in which allegiances are tested, right and wrong, dark and light, it all comes together. You get to play as certain hero characters from time to time. There's an exciting conclusion. I'm going to play the Resurrection expansion as soon as this review is done. Iden Versio is a compelling character, and so is Del Meeko. Gideon Hask is an interesting character, but it's not a spoiler to say that his allegiances are quite locked in place, while other characters are not so set in stone. It's absolutely worth playing, and even though it should only take you around 5 to 6 hours depending on the difficulty, you will have a good time. And I'm very excited to see how they continue to support the story with all this free DLC that they've promised us, and whether or not we will still get free DLC in light of the absence of the microtransactions. So I've nattered on for quite long enough. It's time to knuckle down and talk about what the big picture means. Well, I feel personally, like The Last Jedi, this is a game that is going to split people down the middle, and I'm excluding the people who are avoiding it just because they don't want to support EA or EA's microtransactions or their terrible policies. There will be people who see this as a continuation of the previous game and see no value in it whatsoever. They'll see it as DLC, a few new hero characters and a few new maps. I do not fall into this category. I fall into the category of the people who think there is tightened up gameplay, much more expansive and combat focused maps that cause massive engagements, and even though you're only playing 20v20, it'll always feel like you're playing against an entire army. That the game can draw from a larger pool of music because of the addition of the sequels and the prequels adds more to the constant score thumping away in the background, and as always makes everything so much more exciting and so much more authentically Star Wars. And it just continues with me from there, to the point where I'm asking myself, did I love the game? Did I like the game? Did I hate the game? Well, I can tell you right now I did not hate the game. I think this is a very fun Star Wars game. I'm very happy with the product that I got in terms of the gameplay. If you can bring yourself to ignore the microtransactions that were in the game, and ignore the terrible progression system, and the lackluster single-player options outside of the main campaign, you will see the value that I do. I do not think this is perfect, but this is so vastly improved over the previous game that I can't help but sing its praises as a version of the Battlefront game much closer to the one that I thought I was going to get in 2015. Let me just state for the record that my score does not in any way reflect an inability of mine to see the flaws in this game, but most of the flaws in the game are not the game itself. They come from the practices behind the game, and the things going on behind the scenes. But the game itself is well worth playing. I really hope now that DICE run with their chance to really prove everyone wrong, get out there, get Mustafar in, get Utapau in, get Grievous, get Obi-Wan, Anakin, Count Dooku, get all of these things in the game as soon as possible, and give it the life that the fans like me need to have from this game for there to be any chance of this franchise continuing. We really need to see some support for Battlefront. We've shown our support to DICE by playing this game. Now they need to show us the support by adding to it. Thank you guys so much for checking out this review. If you liked it, tear that like button limb from limb. And if you're still a hungry shark, take a big delicious bite out of the subscribe button to see what else is on the menu. And if you like this video and you want to see more like it, click right here.